Welcome to episode 8 of our Manchester United podcast, where the Red Devils season swings on rivalries, futures, and cup chaos. We kick off this episode with the electric build up to our clash against Leeds United on the 13th of April at Old Trafford. Next, we debate the futures of Rashford, Sancho, and Hoyland amid form dips and transfer whispers. The relegation battle heats up for teams placed 15 to 20 on the Premier League table, with teams like Leeds United clinging on. Also, the FA Cup drama unfolds with Leeds penalty heroics over West Ham and Arsenal's shock exit, while Champions League intrigue builds with the quarterfinals underway this week. Buckle up, United's story is just heating up. Des, wanted to start off by wishing you a very happy birthday. What plans for the day?
Hey, Sanjay. Hey, everyone. Thank you for the wishes. Not much for today. Maybe a late dinner in the evening with the wife. Nothing much apart from that, but a pretty a normal day as usual, Sanjay. How have you been? How things at your end?
I've a dinner plan with wife is always good. I hope you enjoyed that. And I also hope that United win against Leeds United as a present.
Definitely. Yeah, and hoping that United win and continue their form.
Yep.
Top four being top priority for us in the remaining 7 games of the season. We definitely want to see United finish in the Champions League spots. So we have to win the rest of the games. We can afford one draw, maybe like we discussed in the previous episodes. But apart from that, we have to win the
Mhm.
rest of the games. 7 games to go. Let's see. Hoping
Right.
for a good finish to the season.
Absolutely. And to answer your question, I'm doing great. I'm just excited that we've reached episode number 8 of our Madras United podcast. Again, we keep talking about this. This is just a dream come true for us. We've been speaking about this for a few months before we got the ball rolling. But now that we've started doing this, I'm beginning to enjoy this more and more as we do more episodes. Also forces me to watch more games now
Yeah.
that we have to be updated in terms of what's happening in the world of football. But uh, I always look forward to our episode recordings and posting it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So great going. Also, before we get started in terms of our topics for today, let's
Mm,
start off with some great news. Harry Maguire, our pillar in our defense, has extended the contract by another year.
great news. Yeah.
Looking back, we brought him 19 for an 80 million pound defender fee, which was a world record at that time.
Yes.
He came in with a lot of expectations. He took on the captain's armband, but the first few seasons did not go as expected. His performance wasn't great. He made a lot of sloppy errors. His captaincy was questioned, and in 2023, he had to give it up to Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what he also did was West Ham came calling with a 30 million pound offer in 2023. He
Mm,
rejected that offer just to fight for his spot.
yeah.
He wanted to prove all the critics to all the fans that he was worth the money that we bought him for, and he wanted to fight for his place in the United squad. And this was happening right when we had other youngsters who were throwing up all tantrums when they were not given a spot in the starting 11. Hats off to him because he put his uh, head down. He kind of fought for his spot. And now we cannot think of a United defense without Harry Maguire. He's
Yep.
33. He's gone ahead and extended contract. He's also taken a dip in his salary from £190,000 a week. He's gone down to £120,000 a week,
Wow.
which also tells us that he does not prioritize money or a new club over United. And
Definitely.
as a United fan, I think we should just be happy and grateful to what he's been doing because United has not been doing great as a team in the last few seasons. Our
Mm,
defense has been under question,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's been one rock for us. He's been one constant for us while we've seen our defense going through a lot of changes in terms of personnel and also through injuries. He's been very fit, he's been very strong, and he's also scored some great goals, some late winners in the Champions League, in the Premier League as well, in the FA Cups. So your thoughts on Harry Maguire's contract extension?
Yeah. Would we have said the same things about Harry Maguire a couple of seasons ago, Sanjay? Definitely not. Especially when Eric Ten Hag came in and stripped him off his captaincy and gave it to Bruno Fernandes. Maguire definitely became a meme material after a lot of sloppy performances. Sloppy is an understatement, to be honest, at that point in time. There were very, very poor performances where he was like the sole reason for us letting in a few goals at that point in time. So he came under a lot of scrutiny, and to come out of all the criticism from fans, from ex players, from pundits, from the coaches, it was a difficult period for him. I think, like you rightly mentioned, he put his head down, did not cry on social media, did not sulk, did not react, kept doing his job, what he does best, maintained a low profile, and he's come out, I should say, victorious in that battle. To be honest, so I think that's great achievement, and he definitely deserves this 1 year contract. Of all people, I think not just being a player who's on the bench because we brought in Matthias Delic, we've brought in Lenny Oro. There's Aiden Heaven who's also playing in defense. You've got Lisandro Martinez, but look at him right now. After Delict and Euro have been injured on and off, you've only got Maguire and Martinez starting regularly. And we definitely need Maguire. Of course, he's not a ball playing centre back, but is good at the basic jobs, which is defending and also at set pieces as well. Kudos to him. I definitely want to see him stay even longer if possible. I'm not sure if they'd extend it even further after this current contract expires, but very, very happy for him, Sanjay. So
And what
let's look.
makes this more special is
Hmm.
that we spoke about him losing captaincy,
Yeah,
probably losing his place in the starting 11.
yeah.
But I also recall instances where players like Rashford had a go at him on the field, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of players have done that when he's made those costly errors or blunders.
Hmm, hmm.
So to rebound from that, to recover from that, and gain the respect of your fellow team members in the dressing room is something that you cannot think of, right? It requires a lot of grit, a lot of determination, a lot of hard work,
Yeah,
and a lot of mental strength to cut down out the noise, the external noise. In the world of social media now, you just
yeah.
can't get away from the noise. But uh, to put his head down, to cut out the noise, and then just focus on performing well to
Hmm.
regain his place in the squad. This has been like a fairy tale movie, right? Whatever we see in terms of
Yeah, yeah.
sports dramas, this, I'm sure we can make a movie out of this.
Oh, definitely. The word you mentioned, mental strength, that's key. To be honest, I'm pretty sure he would have visited a therapist during these years. And whoever has done that, or even if he's not done it, I think he's got amazing mental strength and he's overcome all of this. That itself speaks volumes about the sort of personality he is. You mentioned about Rashford yelling at him. It's not just Rashford. There's this other people as well who's done this on field. Even when Andre Onana came in the opening season, when he came in, and the first few games, you could see him yelling at Maguire for letting the ball in or making a sloppy mistake and so on. But he never reacted. I'm pretty sure they would have had their arguments in the dressing room after the games, but he never showed that in the field. And I think that's a great attitude and a great trait to have. Brilliant, brilliant from Maguire. So let's hope he continues, and I also want to see him extend 1 more year. Let's see if that happens. But we should definitely look forward to the rest of the season, Sanjay. 7 more games to go for all the teams. The race for the Premier League title is on. You've got Arsenal and Man City fighting for it. The race for the top four Champions League spots between teams placed third to sixth, I should say. We are definitely in the mix. There's teams that are facing relegation as well. We've got to discuss that. But first and foremost, let's dive into the upcoming game versus Leeds. What do we look forward to, and a quick overview of the clash versus. If you could quickly walk us through that, your thoughts, Sanjay.
Right, we are entering an interesting phase of the Premier League. This is the final leg. This
Mhm.
is match day 32, and like you rightly said, 7 games to go.
Mm.
United are currently third on the table in the 31 games that we've played so far. We've won 15, we've drawn 10, and we've lost 6. And if we had to look back in December or January, if we were going to tell that United are going to be third on the table come April, I don't think we would have expected that. So it's been a major turnaround and a great spot to be. No complaints there. All we
Yeah.
need to do is consolidate that third place for the rest of the season and ensure that we go to the Champions League. We
Mm.
are playing Leeds, who are currently 15th on the table. They've won 7, they've drawn 12, and lost 12 in their 31 games so far. They've had a very poor away form. They've won only 1 game in 15 matches that they've played this season. So that's an
Mm.
advantage that we have because we are playing at home. And United's
Mm.
home performance has also been good. So we've
Yeah.
won 10 games and drawn 3 out of the 15 that we've played so far, which gives us a 70% win rate.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of the head to head, we've won 7 and drawn 4 in the last 11 matches. So that gives us a clear advantage of the recent form. Also, we are coming off uh, at the back of a win against Aston Villa, a 3-1 victory, and also a 2-2 draw at Bournemouth. I know we
Mm.
spoke about all the controversies around the refereeing decisions and VAR in the draw against Bournemouth. But
Mm.
with the international break, I think teams have had enough time to go back to the drawing board, come up with a new plan, and also come to these games with fresher legs. Also, the previous encounter with Leeds United, where we were away at Elland Road, we had a 1-1 draw. We had Matthews Cunha scoring in the 65th minute to
Mm.
equalize from a Joshua Zirkzee assist. So my prediction for this game is going to be a 3-1 victory for United.
Okay.
And that's going to be very, very important, these 3 points, because United, if you look at the table, are just 1 point ahead of Aston Villa, who are on fourth.
Mm. Mm.
Next up, we have Liverpool on fifth place at 49 points. So we are currently about 6 points clear of them.
Yeah.
That's a good advantage to have. Also, if we look at the season, I think we've done well in terms of our performances. We've scored 56 goals this season in the Premier League. That
Mm.
puts us up at number 3 in terms of the teams who have scored more goals. The remaining games, if you look at it, we have Chelsea, Brentford, Liverpool, Sunderland, Nottingham, and Brighton. So I would say we are on course to have a top 4 finish, and
Mm.
victory against Leeds is going to be very critical. But we also have to be wary of Leeds. They've just come off a FA Cup quarterfinal victory against West Ham,
Yeah.
which puts them in the semi-finals of FA Cup for the first time in 4 decades. I'm sure they're all pumped up. The mood in in the camp is great, so we'll have to be a little wary of that. Like I said, I'm predicting a 3-1 victory for Manchester United.
I think, like you said, we definitely have to be wary of Leeds. Their form away has not been so great, but they've done really well at home at Elland Road. I know this match is happening at Old Trafford, but under Daniel Farker, their coach, I think they've been doing really well. It's just that they've not been able to convert those draws into victories. They've drawn a lot of matches. They've not been able to convert them into victories, but they're a well coached unit, and I'm pretty sure they'll be at their best when they come to Old Trafford. Of course, we've got the rivalry between United and Leeds, the Lancashire Yorkshire rivalry. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of people watching this, especially with United trying to fight for top 4. I think this is a very, very important game. Let's hope, like you said, see if we come out 3 winners. But yeah, hoping to see a good game. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a high tempo game, Sanjay.
Mhm. Okay. Moving on to the next topic. In the last episode, we had our very interesting segment of Keep or Sell. In this episode, I wanted to discuss specifically about 3 players who we've currently sent on loan, who are still
Yeah.
part of the team. But I
Mm.
wanted to understand from you in terms of what you think their futures are going to be. Let's start
Okay.
off with Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, definitely. Before I touch upon the future of all these three players, I think we need to look at how Manchester United's attacking core is kind of heading into 2026-27, the next season. It's reaching a definitive turning point, I should say, based on all of these players' current loan performances and the strategic shift under Ineos, the management under Carrick. I think as a club, we're moving towards a total shake-up, I should say. If you ask me if these players deserve a place in the squad, should they be retained? Definitely not. And we'll discuss that further. I'll start off with Marcus Rashford, who's been one of the biggest disappointments in the Manchester United squad. This kid that came in from the Manchester United academy, one of our own, brought in by Louis Van Gaal. When he came in, he brought in Marcus Rashford for a Europa League game. I remember versus Midtjylland, the Danish club, where we had a Europa League match when Anthony Martial was injured during the warm up. So Van Gaal had to bring him in to play that striker's role, and he burst onto the scene, came and scored 2 goals that match, and also provided an assist for us. So a brilliant start. And after that, his career has just turned into this juggernaut, and he's performed really well. He's been one of our star players. He was in his prime during the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era. He was definitely a starter on the team sheet. If we lost Marcus Rashford to an injury, we were disappointed that he did not start. He was one of the primary goal scorers for us. To see him progress so well in the United ranks, to come into the first team, to perform so well, to be this poster boy, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. It went downhill after that. A string of poor performances let him down totally. The fans turned on him. His attitude, his performances were not that great. It was not translating into the pitch, and I think he's now become a shadow of his own self from the past. If you look at his loan performances, he was with Aston Villa the last season, and it didn't go that well. But I think with Barcelona, he's found some resurgence. Not at Old Trafford though. He's so far spent the 2025-26 season on loan at Barcelona. Despite not being a constant starter for them under Hansi Flick, I think he's been productive. He's recorded 10 goals and 13 assists so far. His advantages being his electric pace and also the ability to adapt to La Liga have made him a fan favorite at the Camp Nou. The verdict should be to sell Rashford. It's for the good of both parties. I think United and Rashford, when I say both parties, plus Barcelona as well, because they want a good player, they want a good attacking squad player, and they want to make the move permanent, is what I'm hearing right now. So they recently attempted to negotiate a second loan offer for the 2026 season to try and defer the payment that they owe United. But I think we've kind of taken a hard stance here, demanding 26 million pounds for him, and getting Barcelona to trigger that buy option that they have in his contract. We definitely need the funds to fuel our own summer rebuild. We should definitely sell him. It's good for all three parties. I'm pretty sure Rashford will do well. He's still 28. He can revive his career playing with Barcelona or any other club top flight in Europe. That's definitely going to help him, but definitely not at Manchester United. Moving on.
But where specifically do you think this went wrong? Because as recent as the 2022-23 season,
Mm,
Rashford
mm.
was our top scorer. He scored 30 goals in that season, which
Yeah,
was the first time that any Manchester United player scored 30 goals post the Robin Van Persie season in 2012-2013.
yeah,
I mean, suddenly what changed? Because the next two seasons, he was not able to hit the same highs.
mm,
And like you rightly mentioned, he also was not a crowd favorite.
mm.
Where do
Definitely.
you think this went wrong?
See, it's nothing to do with stuff happening at the club or his performances on the pitch. I think it has to do a lot to do with his off the field stuff as well. How does he conduct himself off the pitch? His attitude. Who does he partner with? Even comes
Hanging
down to
out.
his, yeah. So who he hangs out with, it depends on his family. How is his personal life? What are things going on behind the scenes? There's lots of factors that needs to be considered when it comes to player performances. It's not just their training sessions, it's not just their performances on the pitch, not just their association with the club. There's this off the field stuff. And I keep repeating this over and over again because that's very, very important. That influences a player overall. So that's something that needs to be looked into. Until the season when Eric Ten Hag came in, until then he was doing really well. Even the first season he was good, and there were some poor performances here and there, but I think it was okay. But I think after that, a string of poor performances kind of took him away from the limelight for all the wrong reasons. And the fans started turning on him after continuous poor performances. Definitely, the fans would not want to back him, would want to see him on the bench. We had other players who were playing really well. You could visibly see that on the pitch. He was sulking all the time. His body language was not positive, was never positive. He was not the usual self where he used to bomb down the left flank, partner with Shaw, make those crosses, or even try and score himself, running into the goal, dribbling past players, etc. You didn't see that happening in the last few years he was with us. I think it has to do with the off-field stuff that I spoke about earlier. I'm not sure what happened though, but something has affected him, his performances overall, and maybe it's a bit of complacency too. And he thinks he's bigger than the club. You never know. He thinks he's a star and that he has the right to play the way he wants, or behave the way he does, etc. But that doesn't work. The club is always bigger than the player. So we should look at it holistically. His departure is definitely going to help us, help him
Mhm.
overall, and very very important. If Rashford goes, that's going to free up a lot in the wage bill. I know we're talking a lot about the wage bill with Casemiro, with Rashford, but this is literally going to help us a lot financially. We can get in a better left winger at this point in time. I know one we're looking at right now is Jan Diomande from RB Leipzig. There's one name being thrown into the mix. He's a good player. We can bring him in. Of
Mhm.
course, he'll come at a high cost, but yeah, we can definitely replace Rashford with a better player at this point in time. It's good that he leaves the club. So that's my take on Rashford and why it went wrong for him and where it went wrong.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to understand that is another worrying factor and a trend that we are seeing is that we are seeing a lot of academy graduates come to the first team, but
Hmm.
they've not been able to continue playing for United for
Yeah,
years together.
yeah.
We saw a lot of that in the 90s, where players came through the ranks and were constant starters for the team.
Hmm,
But
hmm,
then we were discussing about this offline yesterday. We came up with
hmm.
a whole list of names who've graduated, who came onto the first team,
Yeah,
burst
yeah.
onto the scenes, then have not become regulars, have moved on to different teams, have moved on to different leagues. And that's a worrying trend that we are seeing, right? Where we've not been able to nurture someone and call him our own until the end.
Yeah.
I think that's something the board, the club will have to look at and see where we are going wrong because something seems to be off. It can't be a case where
Hmm,
not
hmm, hmm.
everyone is able to continue with United. We really need to do something about that.
Yeah, that's a larger topic to be discussed, Sanjay. There's lots of things connected to it. Why we are not able to produce talent, why we are not able to nurture talent, bring them into the mix, into the first team. Even if we do bring them into the first team, do they go on to become stars like a Rashford, like a Jesse Lingard, who was a regular starter for us in the past, like the class of '92, where of course you can't
Scott
compare.
McTominay.
Yeah, yeah. Scott McTominay. We definitely can't compare the class of '92 and that period to this right now. But other teams are able to do it. Why are we not able to do it, and why are we not able to produce quality players? Is a question to be asked. Different topic for discussion altogether. But yeah, definitely disappointing for Rashford and yeah, another player who's been a very very huge disappointment. Not like Rashford, I should say. He's not come through as an academy graduate, and it's Jadon Sancho. We chased him for 2 seasons from Borussia Dortmund. We wanted to bring him in. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was keen on bringing Sancho in. He was this amazing talent at that point in time. Remember,
Mhm.
City let him go. Pep Guardiola didn't want him in the first team. He was breaking into the first team. He was on the verge of moving to the first team, but I think Guardiola found something different in him and said you were free to leave. So I think we should have taken the cue there, but unfortunately, we didn't learn from experience. We saw him shine at Borussia Dortmund, and we thought, what a great player, let's bring him in. So another hefty fee that we paid for Jadon Sancho. who's turned out to be one of the biggest flops in the last 5 years, I should say.
Mhm.
In fact, one of the biggest flops in the last 20 years, I would go on to say, Sanjay. It's widely regarded as one of the club's most disappointing investments. Let's quickly look at the loan performance after a decent 2024-2025 season with Chelsea, where he had 5 goals and 10 assists. Chelsea declined a
Mhm.
permanent move for him. In the current season for 2025 and 2026, he's joined Aston Villa on loan. Under Unai Emery, he has been underwhelming, I should say, with only 1 goal and 1 assist so far in 28 appearances. In fact, Emery
Wow.
has publicly questioned his match fitness, stating that he is often not ready to play for a full 90 minutes. So that goes to show the level of confidence that the coach has in him. I mean, not just with Unai Emery, Sanjay, even with the previous coaches at United, with Ruben Amorim and with Eric Ten Hag, you had the same comment where he's not been 100% fit. He does not give his 100% in training, and they did not see him work hard like the other players do. Because remember, the training session is one session where the coach gets to assess his players before the game. So they have to put in a shift. They have to give it
Correct.
their 100%. They have to train really well. They have to run hard. They have to tackle. They have to, make those runs, tracking back to defend. Usually during these training sessions, they have 5v5 or 7v7 games, or 11 versus 11, where you have two teams playing against each other. The coaches observe the performances of the players there, and if they're not giving it all, then definitely there's something that's wrong with those players. And if a player is not seen as fit during a training session, he should be dropped for the match. Despite all of this, he was given chances by Solskjaer. He was given chances by Eric Ten Hag. And I think we did well by loaning him out to Dortmund once, and then he's gone to Aston Villa after that. His contract is coming to an end, and I don't see us extending the contract. We're going to let him go on a free. So the verdict is that we should let go of him. It expires in June 2026, his contract. So we've already decided that we'll be letting him go on a free transfer. There's rumors of a third return to Borussia Dortmund, but will they be willing to take him in, and will Sancho be willing to take a pay cut is another question, because he's been very greedy as far as pay is concerned. So that's another tricky situation. Luckily for us, the contract is over and he's going in June. Whichever club he's going to in the future will have to look at things before, and they'll have to assess him before they take him in. I think Dortmund have done that pretty well. They've got a robust setup, so I think they should be able to accommodate him if and when they decide to take Sancho in.
Got it. And just to close out on this topic, the last name up is Rasmus Hoyland.
Hmm. Well, Rasmus Hoyland, when he was brought in from Atalanta, I was expecting him to become the number 9 that we were expecting him to be. We expected someone like a Ruud van Nistelrooy or a Robin van Persie, but unfortunately, it's been a mixed bag so far. Uh, he's shown flashes of brilliance with United, 14 goals in 62 Premier League appearances. But what has been the drawback for him is he's struggled with consistency, and injuries have marred his performances. So, as United look to move towards a more clinical finisher like a Benjamin Sesko, or they're even looking at Robert Lewandowski right now. I was reading that in one of the articles that we're looking to get him on a loan deal, maybe. So he's a veteran presence. So we're looking at someone who's a proven striker, who's a proven finisher, or someone who's young and who can definitely score goals for us and help us increase the goal tally. So Hoyland has found himself overshadowed by newer arrivals like Matheus Cunha, Benjamin Sesko being the number 9, and then even Brian Mbomo. So right now, even with Benjamin Sesko on the bench, we could still have Ahmad Cunha and Mbomo starting for us. So we don't miss Rasmus Hoyland that much. If you ask me, should we keep or sell? I think we should sell. If we sell him, we should sell him at a high price, try and recover as much as possible for the fee that we bought him. If not, we can probably try another loan spell with Napoli. Even if it is going to be a permanent move, I think Napoli will be the ones who are looking to buy him, because I think they're okay with him right now. He's doing a pretty decent job with the former Italian champions. So lots in store for all these players, and I'm pretty sure if they go, if they leave, it's going to be good for us, good for them. They are able to let go of all the negative stuff that's happening behind the scenes and go play in a new league, find their form, and become better players. But good for us that we're able to offload these guys.
One question I had, not specific to Rasmus Hoyland, but I'll use
Mm,
this example.
mm,
So we spoke about how he struggled at United. He had a
mm.
period of drought as well where he couldn't
Yeah.
score for like 10, 20 games
Mm,
uh, on the trot. But
mm,
then
mm,
he goes on loan to Napoli, and this
mm.
season he scored 10 goals and
Yeah.
provided 2 assists in 26 matches.
Yeah.
So what happens? It's the same player. It's the immediate next season when they move to a
Mm,
different
mm,
league altogether. And
mm.
my understanding is that when you move to a different country, move to a different league, it's going to be even more difficult, right? In
Yeah.
terms of
Mm,
settling in and playing well. But
mm,
this has shifted. Again, another person who moved to Napoli and is doing well is Scott McTominay, right?
mm,
So,
mm.
what do you think is the change here? Is it something to
Yeah.
do with how United is set up? Probably our midfield is not good enough to provide similar to what Napoli has been providing to Hoyland. What
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah, that's one of the factors that you just last mentioned. But I think there's several that we need to look at. First of all, when Rasmus Hojlund came in, he was only 20. Remember, from Atalanta. For a striker to come into United when there's a huge void, we we are actually looking for someone who can come in and fill that gap, who can get us 20 plus goals every season. And the expectations are very, very high at a very, very big club like United. So the spotlight is on you. There's every single move that you make is being looked at with a magnifying glass. Your performances are being scrutinized day in, day out, week in, week out, in every game. So that's something that is very, very difficult for a young striker to take on. Or any young player for
Mhm.
that matter to come into United from a different league and to be put into the spotlight, thrown into the mix with every fan, every pundit, every former players criticizing your performance, looking into it week in and week out. That's very, very difficult, right? So I think that's one of the factors. Second is that a good point that you mentioned where midfielders were not providing chances for him. That's a common theme that we've been seeing. Apart from Bruno, we don't have any other creative outlet. And even Bruno had a bit of a lull in the last 2 or 3 seasons. He was not at his best. Now he is back in form. But even when Bruno was not providing, it's difficult for strikers to score. And you had certain players who were very, very selfish on the wings, like a Marcus Rashford or a Jadon Sancho or even a Garnacho who would always try and dribble into the box and try to score themselves. You would still have a Rasmus Hoyland waiting in the middle, shouting for the ball to be passed into his path. But that never happened. So I think there was a bit of a friction there. Players were not settling in and they did not want to pass to him for some reason, which I don't get because football is a team game. You have to play as a team. And you had a lot of individual players who were trying to gain the spotlight for themselves. So that was not working for him. And the other thing is that the club as a whole, United, is going through a lot right now. One of the pain points, one of the pain areas has been the strikers' positions. Again, going back to the same spotlight that we spoke about for all the wrong reasons. Too much of expectations on one person's shoulder to try and be the single goal scoring person is definitely difficult. And we should have had a backup
Mhm.
striker and a good bench as well, which we did not. So I think all this put together kind of brought down his performance to a certain extent. He was actually doing well with his national team. He got selected for his national team all the time, and even his national team coach mentioned that something was not right with the Hoyland at Manchester United. So I think it is to do with the club, the atmosphere, the midfield assists that you spoke about, the expectations on a young striker. All this kind of put him in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, for the negative reasons and stuff. So I think him going on loan at Napoli did a world of good for him. You also mentioned Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay with United was doing well, was not as bad, but I think he was pretty good. It's just that he was not being played in his preferred position. He's an attacker. He's not a deep lying playmaker or a midfielder or a holding midfielder for that matter. We played him in holding midfield out of position, right? As soon as he goes to Napoli, he goes into the front three Antonio Conte puts him in the front three and he's scoring well. He plays the same way for Scotland as well. So you have to play have the players in the right positions. That's how you can get the best out of them. Right. Even played out when he was played out of position, McTominay, he did a really good job. He never complained. He never, went on social media like the other players did, and he never complained at all. So I know it's slightly off topic, but because you mentioned Scott McTominay, I just wanted to mention this. So there's lots of things that influence some of these players. Back to Rasmus Hoyland, I think it's good that he goes either on loan or we sell him. If we are going to sell him, then we have to sell him for a higher fee and try and recover a lot of the money that we paid for him when we brought him in from Atalanta.
So, Desmond, firstly, nothing is off topic when it comes to football. This is a football podcast, so anything football is fine here. Secondly, just my thoughts on this. I know I asked the
Yes.
questions, but I've also been thinking about what the answer could be. We spoke
Hmm,
about
hmm.
how the academy graduates have not been able to go on
Yeah.
and get a consistent place in the team.
Hmm,
Why players like Rasmus Hoyland have struggled here but have gone on to different leagues and done well. I
hmm.
think if you look back, we always compare the current set of players with what happened in the Sir Alex Ferguson era, because
Hmm,
that's what
hmm.
we grew up watching, that's what we've
Yeah.
grown up seeing, and that's the legacy that Manchester United always talks about.
Yeah.
One thing that was consistent there was that you had Sir Alex Ferguson at the helm for 26 years,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
I know initially there were struggles when he took over. We were not doing that great. It took about 6 years for us to win the first trophy. But then
Yeah.
since then, it was never looking back. But
Hmm.
what's happened in the last 10 years is we've had a lot of churn in terms of players, in terms of the managers, in terms of the team. Like you rightly mentioned, for someone young to come in, it's not the best of environments for you to come in and start
Yeah.
flourishing right away.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
the other thing that we're not able to provide all these players is the benefit of time.
Yeah.
We expect them to hit the ground running. We expect
Oh
them
yeah.
to start performing right away. And if they're not good for a season, then we start looking at options like a loan or to sell them off.
Hmm.
But I think that's one of the reasons as to why we've not been able to do well, because
Yeah.
we really need to get back into consistently finishing in the top three, top four for us to first
Mhm.
believe that we are a good team, because we have that one off season where we finish in the top three or top four and then we go back to sixth or seventh position. That
Hmm.
kind of gets us back to questioning whether we are on the right track or not. So
Yeah.
all of it, I think, comes down to having a consistent base. I know we've spoken about it in the previous podcast that managers should be given at least a few years' time, give them two,
Hmm.
3 years. If they have to fail, let them fail after the full quota of 2, 3 years. But
Hmm,
at
hmm.
some point, we need to start doing that. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult. Players are going to come in, they're going to go out, but this
Yeah.
is just going to continue. We really need to take a step back, take a call, and then build for the future rather than trying to apply a band aid whenever possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, staying on with the Premier League, the next topic that we have is the battle for the relegation zone. We
Hmm.
have teams lined up from 15 to 20, not far apart in terms of points. We have Leeds, Nottingham, Tottenham in 15, 16, 17, and then we have West Ham, Burnley, Wolverhampton from 18 to 20. What do you think is going to be the case after 7 games? Who's going to get relegated according to you?
Okay. Interesting topic. So, as of today, Sanjay, the Premier League is witnessing one of its most surreal relegation battles in history. While the title race remains a two-horse sprint between Arsenal and City, the bottom of the table is a chaotic scramble featuring none other than Tottenham Hotspur. So let's look at a quick breakdown of the teams who are currently sitting in the bottom 5, 6 positions in the league. Right. So we've got
Before
Leeds
we go there,
United.
just one question. Just one
Hmm.
question from what you said. Is it still a
Yeah.
sprint between Arsenal and City for the top two? I thought Arsenal are clear favorites from now on.
You never know. There's still 7 games to go, and there's only a few points between them. So if Arsenal
Currently,
lose,
there's a 9 point difference.
yeah, there's a 9 point difference. You never know. There's 7 games to go. If Arsenal loses a couple of games or they draw let's say, a couple of games, then that makes it very, very difficult for them. And in the current form they are in, based on what we've seen in the last few games, I think there are chances that City might put up a tough fight at the end. Given that they have a
Okay.
9 point lead, I don't expect them to drop more points and lose the title, but let's see. You never know.
Okay. Sorry. Back to
Yeah, back to
the
the
bottom half.
relegation battle. So I
Yeah.
said Tottenham, right? It's been a great surprise that we're seeing Tottenham in this relegation battle. We're looking at teams between 15th to 20th in the league. You've got Leeds United with 33 points. Their situation looking a bit precarious. Nottingham Forest on 32 points. They're slightly getting better, but still not out of the relegation zone yet. Tottenham Hotspur have been in crisis, in a free fall since the beginning of this year. 30 points. West Ham United on 29, almost in danger. And then you have Burnley and Wolves on 20 and 17 points. Pretty much sealed that they would be relegated. Don't see them coming back from the 19th and 20th spots. So Burnley and Wolves are definitely out. It's a race between 15 to 18, which is Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham, and West Ham that we're looking at who would be relegated along with Burnley and Wolves. So a quick run through
Okay.
on the current situation for each of these teams. So Leeds hold a 4 point cushion over the drop zone, but their form has kind of been stagnant. Remember, I told you they've become the league's draw specialists, unable to turn dominant home performances into 3 points. They've only been able to draw, but their away form has been poor. What they need to do is that they have to capitalize on the current run-in that they have. They're going to play, uh, four of the bottom six teams left. So that means that they have chances of winning and taking points away from the remaining fixtures. So survival is entirely in their own hands. Winning their home games is very, very important at Ellen Road, and that's non-negotiable for them if they are to stay in the top flight. Moving on to Nottingham Forest with 32 points. Nottingham Forest again have been slightly resurgent under their new coach Vitor Pereira. They found a new spark. The issue for them has been consistency. Before their recent win over Tottenham Hotspur, I think they struggle for goals. Their attacking trio of Igor Jesus, Morgan Gibbs White, and Taiwo Aboni, finally they seem to be clicking. So we're seeing a resurgence right now. What they need to do to survive is to maintain the defensive discipline that they've shown in the recent weeks, and they've got to take at least 6 points, 4 to 6 points in the remaining fixtures. Burnley and Newcastle is up next for them. I think if they do that, they'll be able to seal you know a stay in the Premier League for next season. On to Tottenham Hotspur. What do I say, Sanjay? The most shocking story of the 2025-2026 season. It's been a disastrous start for them, and it's been winless for them since 2026. Sent out Ange Postecoglou, and they brought in Igor Tudor as the interim manager prior to him coming into Tottenham Hotspur. I didn't even know who he was. They should have gone for a Premier League proven manager as an interim coach, because you bring in an unknown commodity and you're asking for trouble, because that's what has happened. He's been in the hot seat for 40 days and he's been sent out, and you've got Roberto De Zerbi who's coming right now. The issue that Tottenham have had is that they've had a complete collapse in confidence over this one season, and they've had a lot of injuries for their players, which has left them 1 point above the relegation zone. It's a very tough situation for them. So they're statistically the worst performing team in the league since January. So let's see if Roberto De Zerbi is able to get them out of the relegation zone and revive their season. The Spurs still have the most talented squad in the bottom six, but I think they look fragile mentally. They need someone who's a leader, someone who's a veteran within the team to try and emerge and stabilize a defense that has already conceded 50 plus goals. Before, you had like a Heung-min Son, you had a Harry Kane, you had these great players for them who were able to try and hold the dressing room together. Christian Romero is the captain right now, but his performances and what he does on social media has made people criticize his performance, his behavior and stuff. He's not a great captain, but let's see what happens to Spurs. I don't want to see them relegated, to be honest. I want them to stay in the Premier League, but I think with their current predicament, it's going to be tough for them to come out of that relegation battle. West Ham United again, 29 points. They've kind of fluctuated between very, very poor and hopeful all the year. A recent win over Fulham gave them a bit of a hope, but I think after that they lost to Aston Villa, which has kind of kept them in the bottom three, and they're trying to come out of that. The issue with them is that they've got a goal difference of -21, which is the worst amongst the survivors. And if they end up level on points with Spurs or Forest, they will likely lose the tiebreak. That's what we're looking at, because it'll be decided on goal difference if it's going to be the relegation battle based on goal difference, similar to what we
Right.
see during the league victories that happen. So, how to survive? Tips for them is that their upcoming match against Wolves on the 10th of April is a must win. They also face Leeds on the final day that could decide whether they stay up or not. So, very, very important. They have to give it their all and try and win the rest of the matches. That's the only chance. And Burnley and Wolves, I'm not going to go into the details because it's concluded that they're going to be relegated. They're only on 20 points and 17 points each. It's tough for them, but yeah, sad to see them go. We will definitely have new teams coming into the mix next year from the Championship. A new team is definitely going to come in. We've got Coventry City under Frank Lampard, who've been dominant in the Championship. We'll have a new team in the Premier League next season. Sanjay, looking forward to that. See how Frank Lampard takes them through. Yeah, but that's my take on the relegation battle. A lot of surprise. West Ham and Tottenham, I see a battle between both of them, and one of them will definitely go down. I think Forest and Leeds will stay up. That's my my take and my verdict, Sanjay.
So who's that going to be? Tottenham or West Ham?
I said either Tottenham or West Ham. That's what I'm
Yeah, but
saying.
who's that going to be? I want one team.
One answer. Okay. I'd say West Ham.
West Ham are going down. Okay. You still have a soft corner for
For
Tottenham
Tottenham. Yeah,
Hotspurs.
yeah, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Des. Let's conclude with a quick roundup on what's happening in the FA Cup and Champions League. I know we've spent a lot of time in our earlier topics, so we'll do a quick
Mm.
roundup here. I'll start off with the FA Cup. The FA Cup was very, very interesting, had a lot of action last weekend with the quarterfinals.
Mm.
First up, I'll start with the big game, City Liverpool.
Okay.
Like we've mentioned previously, City Liverpool has been one of the clashes that we look forward to. But
Yeah, yeah.
post Jurgen Klopp's exit, I don't think Arne Slot and team have been able to live up to that expectations. Again, could have been an upset, but City came out victors over Liverpool with Erling
Mm.
Haaland scoring a hat trick, his first in over a year. And
Mm.
to top things off, Mo Salah missed a late penalty to make things worse
Mhm.
for Liverpool. So Pep was happy about it, but he had to watch this game from the stands because he was suspended. Next
Yeah.
up was Chelsea beating Port Vale 7-0. And just to give
Okay.
a context, Chelsea are placed sixth in the Premier League, and their opponents were Port Vale, who are from the League One. So League
Wow.
One is third tier in terms of the English football. So you have the
Yeah.
Premier League, and then you have the Championship, and then
Yeah.
you have League One. And they are placed 24th in League One, which is the bottommost team in League One. So that's the opponent that Chelsea had to go past. So the 7-0 victory, though the scoreline looks big, I don't think it's big enough beating a team who are bottom of League One. So Chelsea are through. Next up, we had the biggest upset, Southampton winning 2-1 over Arsenal. For Arsenal fans, this has been a double shot. First, they were out of the EFL Cup, losing
Yeah.
2-0
Yeah.
to Manchester City late in March, and now they are out of the FA Cup as well. The first goal that Arsenal conceded, I would say it was a howler by Ben White, the defender who goes to head the ball out but completely misses the ball. Ross Stewart chests it down and puts it past the Arsenal goalkeeper. Victor Gyökeres pulls things back for Arsenal with the equalizer, but then Shea Charles wins it for them in the 85th minute. So Southampton are through to the semi-finals.
Yeah.
Finally, we mentioned this earlier in our podcast, Leeds are through to the semi-finals for the first time in 4 decades
Mm.
after 39 years, after 1987. But they had to do it the the tough way, the long way. They had to win it on penalties against West Ham. So it was 2-2 at the end of regular time. Leeds scored in the 26th and 75th minute. It was looking that they will be victors in normal time, but then West Ham pulled things back with goals in the 3rd and 97th minute. It went on to penalties where Leeds won 4. So it's going to be a City versus Southampton and Chelsea versus Leeds
Hmm.
semi-finals. Very interesting. My prediction is going to be it's going to be a City versus Leeds final.
Oh,
What do
wow.
you think?
Oh wow! I was thinking you were going to say City versus Chelsea final, but yeah,
Huh?
not surprised because the kind of form that Chelsea are in right now, with them playing hot and cold every now and then, they've got this crazy coach as well. I'm not sure if you've seen that interview where there's one game where the players formed a huddle in exactly bang on the middle of the
Oh
pitch,
yeah,
standing around
with
the
the
ball,
referee in it.
with the referee standing in between, and the explanation he was giving that the players were paying their respects to the ball, so that was doing the rounds. There's a lot of criticism for that, and people found that really weird, and there's a few interviews prior to that as well. So anyway, back to Chelsea. Yeah, so with their form being erratic, I think it wouldn't be a surprise if Leeds, if on that day they turn up and they crank up their performance, I think Leeds have a better chance of going through. So I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if City and Leeds play the final, but I'm pretty sure City will come out victorious. Arsenal wanted to win the
Yeah,
quadruple this season, out of the Carabao Cup, out of the
I
FA Cup.
know.
I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, we will talk about the Champions League next, but let's see what happens there. And the league 9 points difference, but you never know what could happen. If they lose the league, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the biggest goof up of the century.
They'll
Let's see.
become the South Africa of football.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, South Africa football is just an understatement. But you have to find
but
better words.
but going back to the FA Cup semi-finals or the finals prediction, I would love for it to be a Southampton versus Leeds finals, but that
Wow,
is expecting City, I'm sure, are in red hot form. So let's see. Okay,
definitely.
to take us through the Champions League matches. What's happening in the world of Champions League?
Exciting quarterfinals between yesterday we had Real playing Bayern Munich at home and then Sporting Lisbon playing Arsenal. Upcoming matches with Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, and you have PSG facing off against Liverpool on the 8th of April. So a mouth-watering clash between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. The expectation was that it would be the same as previous fixtures between these two teams. It's always been one-sided, with Real coming out victorious in a lot of these clashes that happened in the past. But it was the exact opposite this time around. I think Bayern were completely dominant right from the get go. I watched the first half completely, and I thought Bayern were just brilliant. Joshua Kimmich and Pavlovic were running the midfield for them. Michael Olise on the right flank was just out of this world. Him and
Mhm.
Alvaro Carreras were a total mismatch. He dribbled past him. I couldn't count the number of times he went past Alvaro Carreras and beat him for pace. Mostly confusing defenders, Michael Olise, Harry Kane for that brilliant performance with that first goal. It was his pass that set the tone for Gnabry's assist to Luis Diaz. I think as a unit, Bayern Munich are looking the dominant team. I'm pretty sure, although the match ended 2-1, I think Bayern will go through this time around. They're looking dominant. They're well, they're working well as a team, and they've got a good set of players. Man of the match was Manuel Neuer for them. If
Mhm.
Manuel Neuer is getting the man of the match, imagine the form they are in right now. At 40, he's one of the
The
best keepers in the
40-year-old
world.
custodian.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's one of the best keepers in the world, and yeah, Bayern this time will definitely go through. Sporting Lisbon versus Arsenal. I didn't catch up on the match, but 1-0 victory to Arsenal away to Sporting. The only goal coming in from Kai Havertz, but I think Sporting gave them a tough fight. I see Arsenal would definitely go through, but you never know. There could be a surprise from Sporting because in the round of 16 they beat Bodo Glimt after a 3-0 deficit to make it 4-3 in the second leg and progress to the next round. So with the form Arsenal are in right now, losing a few games out of the competition for the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, etc. I think this second leg for the Champions League quarterfinal would be a tricky one for them. Let's see. And then you have PSG versus
Mhm.
Liverpool. PSG will definitely go through. There's no question about that. Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid, another mouth-watering fixture. Atletico Madrid beat Barcelona in the Copa del Rey. and then Barcelona beat Atletico Madrid in the league recently, so they'll catch up again when they play the Champions League quarterfinals. I see Atletico Madrid going through, scraping through this time around. It's going to be another tight clash, but I think defensively Atletico Madrid are brilliant. Barcelona are not that great, so that's where I see Atletico Madrid progressing into the next round. So it will be Atletico versus PSG, and then you will have a Bayern versus Arsenal. I see Bayern beating Arsenal comfortably, and then PSG progressing into the finals. Bayern versus PSG. My prediction for the Champions League winner is going to be Bayern this time around. What about you?
Wow, you're you're giving Arsenal absolutely no chance
No
for
chance. No
even
chance.
two cups. Okay,
It's
okay,
actually disappointing, from the English
yeah,
clubs this time around in the Champions League. But Arsenal do not have a chance, to be honest.
got it. One question I had for
Hmm.
Real Madrid: are they missing Luka Modric? Because just
Big
like
time.
you, I watched the first half of last night's game against Bayern. They were good on the counter attack. You had Vinicius Junior and Mbappe sprinting across, but somewhere I think Real lost it in the midfield.
Yeah, that's where they lost it in midfield. See, I mentioned this several times before. Any team that controls the midfield would definitely go on to dominate and win the game, provided they score goals as well. But I think the midfield battle was won by Bayern yesterday. It was completely Joshua Kimmich and Pavlovic. It was completely dominant display from them. For Madrid, I think it changed slightly after Jude Bellingham came in the second half. There were a couple of early chances that were created by Bellingham in the start of the second half as well.
Mhm.
And I think that's the reason they were able to score a goal and pull one back, because they made two changes. They brought in Bellingham and they brought in Eder Militao as well in the game later. So, to answer your question, yes, they definitely miss a Modric type of player, a Toni Kroos type of player. That midfield with Kroos, Modric, and Casemiro was one of the best. It's hard to replace that midfield for them. Chouameni is a defensive midfielder whose his performances have been on and off, not so great, but I don't think so. He had any chance against the two Bayern midfielders yesterday. It was very very difficult. But yeah, let's see.
Great. That's a wrap on episode 8. Red Devils fans, from Leeds rivalry fire to Rashford, Sancho, and Hoyland's crossroads, relegation scraps and cup upheavals, United season stays gripping. Tune in next time as we chase glory at Old Trafford. Thanks for listening.
Thank you everyone, and see you around.